about tomorrow. Don't worry, that's the motto. So we keep moving along.
Welcome back, viewers of the Bald Biker. And I am now just taking a back road to the outskirts of Clarksburg, just on a quick ride. I haven't been able to get out for a while just because the weather's been crappy and I've been super busy with work and everything. So today I have a day off, but it's supposed to rain this afternoon, like 93% chance of heavy rain this afternoon, but it's finally warmed up a little bit. So let's get out for a little ride. And I thought, well, what could we do today? Well, looking at my odometer, and I'm now at 22,100 kilometers on the bike, and that's all me because I bought it brand new. So I figured maybe it's time to give the post 20,000 kilometer review of the bike, at least for my impressions, to anyone that's wondering. Now I know there's a lot of reviewers out there and there's a ton of review videos. Most of the guys like to get into the technical stuff. I'm just going to give you a review as far as your average middle-aged Joe that decides he wants to buy a bike like this. Okay, trying to synchronize cameras here. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do, just to make audio better for everybody, is I'm going to pull over somewhere and then I can do the review rather than just riding, because I tried that last time, reviewing the trip, and yeah, it was a lot of wind noise. Even got some complaints from the peanut gallery. So that's the Blue Mountains up there along the shoreline. And we're just going to head the back way into Clarksburg. Perfect. Okay, so we're taking a little break by the river in Clarksburg. Nice little pullover spot if you're in the area and you're biking around. Hope you can hear me okay. We are outside, wind's blowing, and I'm not pointing directly at the GoPro bike, so I will do my best. Okay, so this is a 2020 Africa Twin Adventure Sport ES. The Adventure Sport is the model with the bigger gas tank, and it's got a bunch of other features as well. It's just it's sort of the bells and whistles with the cruise and the higher screen and just all kinds of stuff, but you could look that up yourself. But I wanted to get the higher one because it had the longer gas tank, and this one is more geared towards long distance cruising as opposed to just going off-road, even though it has all kinds of off-road engineering, obviously. But the basic model is more meant just for going off-road mostly and getting you there going off-road, but this is more meant for if you want to do a big tour like what I did out east, and it worked quite well for that. So with that said, you know, it's got the electronic suspension and all that. That's all great. If it feels a little spongy, you can hit a button and stiffen it up, and it just works from there. And it's quite convenient. I usually set it a little bit stiffer, but today I got it on one passenger and it's okay. This review is just simply my point of view as just an average guy riding this bike. I'm not a riding expert. I'm not an off-road king, nothing like that. I don't even have a lot of off-road experience. I'm working on it, but that's a long, slow process for someone that hasn't been doing it since he's a kid. So this is basically a touring bike to me, and that's probably my only little bit of reservation about getting this bike. Is I should have thought to myself, you know, what kind of riding are you going to do? Are you going to be going on off-road trails all the time? Are you going to be doing camping in the back mountains and all that kind of stuff? Or are you just going to be doing road trips with the occasional gravel road and the occasional construction zone? And you know, maybe I would have picked a different bike based on those reasons, but for whatever reasons, I picked this one. It's got all the bells and whistles. I figured it was well-rounded for everything, I think is why I went for it. It was a bike that can do anything, and that's pretty much what it does. You know, I still feel this way, that this bike has a ton of curb appeal. When I go on my trips and I ride around, there's constantly people walking up to me and asking about the bike and stuff like that. It's really it's a flashy bike, and it's a show-offy bike, and if you don't really want to stand out and attract any of that kind of attention, that may work against you as well. If you're more of a shy person, just want to kind of keep quiet and be left alone. Comfort wise, I would say there's definitely other touring bikes out there. Actually, most touring bikes out there are more comfortable to sit on than this one. Again, maybe it's because of all the off-road engineering in it. They're thinking, well, you're just going to be bopping on the trails and standing most of the time anyway, so why should we make your seat comfortable? So the stock seat with this bike, as you can read anywhere, and anybody that owns one will say, is not very comfortable. It's like sitting on a wooden board, and if you're doing long miles, that gets really hard. So just keep that in mind. So the first thing you want to do if you get this bike is to get an aftermarket seat. You know, a lot of people get the Corbins, some people get Airhawks and all this kind of stuff. I settled for the Italian seat cover, which has just a little more soft padding built into it, and it's more breathable, and it's a very high quality seat cover. And I reinstalled that, and I found that the comfort level is much better now, but you still get a sore ass after 300-400 kilometers. Mileage wise, I don't know why I keep seeing guys in the Africa Twin forums claiming that they get 700 kilometers out of this bike. I don't know how they're doing it, because I've done 22,000 clicks on it now, and I do not get 700 kilometers on a tank. There's no way. I start worrying after about 300. I'm down to my last bub by then. Nobody drives it in D, because if you just put it in regular drive, it just goes way too high in the gears and it just chugs like a tractor. I'm surprised it doesn't stall all the time. It's just dumb the way they did that. So sorry, Honda, but you know, your regular drive should be more like Sport 1. So you put it in, I put it in Sport 2. There's 3 levels of Sport to favor the lower gears. Put it in Sport 2, and it just sort of drives normal, which is nice. And now with Sport 2, of course, you're going to burn a little more gas with higher revs. So maybe that's why I'm only getting 350. And maybe these guys that are getting 700 have it in drive and just chugging it like a tractor slowly on the highway or something. I don't know. As for handling, now experienced guys are going to tell you this thing handles like a dream. They're going to say it's almost like cheating, you know, with doing short low-speed U-turns and technical trails and all this kind of thing. They will tell you that this is extremely good handling on this bike, but I still wouldn't recommend it for a beginner rider. If this is your first bike you're going to buy and you've never ridden before, don't get this bike, because it's top heavy and it's, you know, it's difficult to handle when you don't have any experience with it. It does take a learning curve. So don't get this bike unless you've ridden other bikes before. It handles fantastic on the highway. And when you have high winds, you know, and if you saw some of the episodes when I was out east, I ran into some really high winds out there, and I still was able to hold my ground on the road going on the highway. I was bitching about the wind a lot, but I was still able to handle it. And there was some really nasty winds out there. Now with the lighter bikes that I've owned in the past, there's no way I would have been able to make it. I would have had to pull over or something, or would have just been blown right over. In some of these high winds I've done across the Avalon and some other areas, causeways out there and out east and stuff like that, you can get some really bad winds. It's heavy enough and big enough that the wind doesn't bother it too much, so you're okay there. If it's in bad weather, it can handle the bad weather. It can handle you know, heavy rain. You've seen me take it through heavy rain and all that sort of thing. It handles quite good. Tire choice may have something to do with that. I chose on-road tires for my big long trips, and then I put these Dunlop Trail Max Missions for just standard riding around if I want to do back roads and stuff like that, riding around the area. But I wouldn't take these missions on a super long 2-3 week long road trip because they would wear down too fast. The off-roadability is, you know, my viewpoint's going to be very limited on this, but I have a little experience now. You know, I've had a few years with this bike now, and there's a little bit of experience there. I'm getting more comfortable now. I know it's definitely all has to do with me and my level of skill and experience, and it's definitely not the bike. There is nothing holding you back as far as the design of this bike for doing any off-road stuff, other than the fact that of its size and weight. If you're going to do real extreme tactical stuff, you might want a lighter bike, like a 500 or even a 300. Again, this is a very heavy bike for doing super tactical, you know, like real steep dirt hills and stuff. You got to remember, it's not a dirt bike. You know, it's an adventure bike. You know, it's made to do the trails, it's made to go off-road, but if you're going to be bombing up and down the dirt tracks and stuff like that, no, this isn't the right bike for that, and it's too big and heavy for that. Now we get on to the electronics. The Apple Android Auto features, you know, it's difficult to master, it's difficult to get it set up. You practically have to be a computer guru to figure this stuff out. It took me a long time. I finally got it working, and then I still realized in the end I really don't need all this stuff. It's just my opinion. Some guys like the high tech, some guys want the music while they're riding, and some guys want to see the little you know, GPS on the screen, or talk on their phones or whatever. But to me, when I'm out to ride, I'm just out to ride, you know, and I really don't need all that. And I think that's why I've gone several years without even bothering with it. It's only had one callback as far as manufacturer callbacks, and that was the only issue they found with this bike so far, and that was the special coating they put inside the gas tanks was degrading and wearing down and creating a residue and a silt and little cruddy stuff that was clogging up the fuel filter. So what you have to do is, you know, after your first year or whatever, you got to take it in, you got to flush that all out and change the fuel filter, and then you're good to go. Some guys have literally been stranded on the side of the road with this problem. I've never been stuck with it, but I did take it in and I got that done. So, you know, maybe that's all it is, but that's the only issue this bike has had as far as a manufacturer recall. This is, the DCT here has been known to stick between gears. It hasn't happened to me, fortunately, and I hope it doesn't, knock on wood. But it's been known sometimes it can just get confused. Maybe if you had a fall or something like that and it fell down and you just somehow got stuck between gears. I've seen videos online of guys who've had that problem, and then they can't get it started again and all this kind of stuff. Really, from what I've read, the only issue is you've just got to get it rolling. You or get someone to help you. Just roll the bike, push the bike forward, roll it until it clicks into whatever gear it wants to go into, and then you should be good to go. The only other known issue, again, and I've said this before, is don't wear thick gloves if you're wearing the DCT, because the thick gloves, your thumb is going to catch the throttle while you're reaching for the brake, and you'll accelerate when you don't want to, and you won't be able to pull in a clutch quickly for that. So that's a real pain. So I found the answer to that is wear thin gloves, and then that doesn't happen, so you can get a better feel for your throttle. Luggage capacity, I got the Honda OEM panniers for it. I've just got the top box on right now, and I packed that way for a trip. You know, I'd love to get Lone Rider and all the stuff that these other vloggers have, but it's a lot of money for that stuff, and so I need to be able to justify a stronger need for it before I spend, you know, $1,500 on panniers when I've already got a set. So I don't know, I'm just kind of waiting on that. I may eventually end up with something like that. You know, they sure look pretty, but right now I'm getting away without them. But it handles a lot of luggage. Certainly if you're going on a camping trip or something like that, it's great. I'm going to attempt seeing if I can get all the camping stuff on it plus a passenger this summer. We're going to see if that's going to work. Don't know yet, but we're going to try. The sound of it, I think the sound of it is great. I don't think you need to buy an Aquapovic muffler you know, that's all just for show. You're spending $2,000 just so that it sounds a little more growly. But this muffler and this engine, the way it is now, I think it sounds fine the way it is. Like if you know, put her down a gear and go to pass, it's got a great little growl to it. It's very macho. So you really don't have to spend $2 grand on a muffler for it. The stock muffler works fine.